So for me, I am okay with the number game because I genuinely love interacting with the audience so much, and I just love meeting people so much. I just enjoy doing this. I enjoy knowing the new brands. I just enjoy fashion so much that I'm okay with the downsides of it. Yes, it's taxing. Yes, there are days I cry, extremely frustrated, everything. Um, Same with my husband, but those are the problems I'm okay with. But there are certain value systems that personally I feel I would not want to sacrifice, and the day that happens, then no relationship or career is worth it.
Hey everyone, this is Shruti. Welcome to my podcast, I'm Just Curious, where I talk of all things I'm curious about with the people I'm curious about and how they turned their passion into their profession. In today's episode, I'm going to be talking to someone who turned her passion for fashion into her profession. She was not always sure that she wanted to be in fashion, but there was this thing that always kept on with her that maybe that's her thing. So I'm very happy to have a fashion marketer, fashion influencer, Heena Somani with me on the podcast today. Hi Heena, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. So all good, everything? How have you been today?
Good, very good. It's been quite a few busy days, but nevertheless always grateful.
Yeah, nice. Great. I mean, I have to tell you, you look like Kareena Kapoor today. And that's like a huge compliment.
Because I love her too, so that I take it as a compliment.
Yeah, everybody loves her. So yeah. So let's start from the beginning. You always knew that you had an inclination towards fashion, like it was always in the back of your mind somewhere, but you never were sure about it. So talk to me about that.
It's just like anything else in life, right? Your subconscious always knows it, but it's you who consciously doesn't accept it. So for me, I always had that interest in terms of more usual than other people. I'd love dressing up. I'd love, putting makeup, or I would love seeing different silhouettes of clothes, which is something that always fascinated me.
Yeah.
So right now what you see, I was like 20 kgs more than what I am today. And that kind of had pulled my confidence down to accept that, I wanted to be in fashion. And like I just mentioned, I'm talking about early 2000s. And at that point, the world wasn't so aware. You didn't have Instagram, and you didn't have people talking about body positivity and you can do whatever at whatever body shape. At that point, you just thought that this isn't your place, because all that there was a fashion TV. And you had all these thin, tall models walking, and that was the only aim, right? So yes, but eventually I did accept it, because I understood that if you really have an interest and if you are good at it, then why not? It's only worth trying it, and if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work.
Yeah, true. And I love that, we, as you said, that we had only a few role models and a few places to look up to and everything. Talk to me about you went to Singapore to study mass communication.
Yes.
But ended up studying Bachelors in fashion.
Yes.
So how did that happen?
So actually, a little bit rewind to my school days. I was in boarding school, and they would ask what do you want to do, and everybody knew the colleges they wanted to be in, because I did IB, and pretty much everybody had this aim of going to America, to blah blah school, and to this place and blah blah school, and I was completely blank. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I just knew that I wanted to do something, which is what, no clue. But when I came back, one of my friend suggested that she has gone to some counseling institute, and then she said apparently mass comm is the thing, and it's fun and it's interesting. I was like, fine, let's do it. She's like, it's in Singapore. I was like, fine, let's do it. There was no aim. Why Singapore also? There was no logic to it. It was just it's a safer country than usual. It's closer to India. And these were the more practical logics that I went around. Mass comm, like I said, there was no agenda to that course. It just happened. But while I was there, I understood that it's not something that I want to do long term. I enjoyed it for the time being, but I did not want to do it long term. I realized that I would really like to help people, because even I vividly remember once I actually went for a camp, and one of my mentors, she shut me in a room because everybody had answers of Even like, you randomly ask a child these days also, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
They'd be like, I want to be a doctor, I want to be something, I had no answers ever.
Yeah.
So she really wanted an answer out of me. She said, I'm going to lock you up, what do you want to do? And even after 2 hours of locking me up, my answer was, I just really want to help people in a way that when I see somebody, I'm like, why is she wearing this? Like, just maybe if she wore better sleeves or like, better cuts, she would have looked better.
Yeah.
So she went and researched and found there's something called image consulting.
Okay.
And every time everybody would ask me, what do you want to be? I said, image consultant. Like, it's just how I started knowing that I'm interested in this field. And when I was there away from home, I in fact called my parents. I said, I'm done, I'm coming back. I can't do this. It's too much. It's not my scene. And then, I don't know what happened. A few people suggested. I actually came back to Ahmedabad to see NIFT. And when I went there, as beautiful as the campus is, I was in Singapore. So for me, I was like, no, like, you really need to find your path. Because when I went there, I realized I'm running. If I want to come back and do the same thing, where I've already invested over there, then might as well, if you've already got the courage to now pursue the field you like, then you might as well do it where you already are than constantly shifting your base.
Yeah.
So yes, that's how the whole story went from mass comm to fashion.
Yeah. For a moment, like when you said that, you wanted to help people and then you added like for what they're wearing, I was like, okay, you're in the right field.
Yeah. And even, but that is a huge help, trust me, because now that I do this, I know that people sometimes when I read people's messages, I honestly have tears because you realize this impacts them more than your outfit and your makeup. Like I cannot stress on it enough because I have come out of it because of it. And I know so many other people who've come out of very difficult situations in their life just by playing around with like outward appearance. So as surface level and shallow to some people it might sound, it's actually way more deeper.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, people have a very negative or say a shallow perception, like if somebody looks good or if somebody's into dressing up and looking good and experimenting with their style, people like look at them as like, oh, they must be superficial, they might be shallow,
Dude, it has changed now, to be very honest.
It has.
I mean, from when I started working to now, it's people now honestly know that it's important. But earlier when I started, it was a foreign concept, like, how does it matter? Why don't people accept me for who I am? But you wearing better clothes doesn't change who you are. It just makes you better of who you are.
Yeah, true. It makes you feel good. And because I also felt that, I always loved dressing up. My dad loved dressing up and I think we all got it from him. Like he always wants to be tip top and wants to see what shoe matches with what and everything. So I think we got this from him. So, I mean, but I felt that, in a place where I live, things are very low-key.
Yeah.
Around when you're in school and college, things are low-key. And at that point of time, when you still want to dress up and you stand out and sometimes, you feel awkward because you're standing out. Yeah. And that's why you also kind of go into a shell and you're like, okay, no, I don't want to stand out. So I also did that. I was like, okay, I don't want to stand out. But now I'm like, okay, I don't care.
Yeah. No, it's a very nice thing that my mom taught me. Actually, I faced a similar situation when I got back from doing all these studies. So of course I lived amongst different kind of people. So it was already a given there to dress well, and the places that you go to, you should be. Plus I was in a fashion school. They would send you back if you're not dressed well.
They should.
Yeah. So for me, then, after a few years, I learned that it is important, and now I started dressing up. When I came back to Ahmedabad, shifted my base.
Yeah.
And of course, I was the overdressed one, clearly today as well. But it's always been that I'm the overdressed one. And I would tell, so there were a few places where I would go and I would tell my mom, that I think I really need to tone it down because I'm always standing out.
Yeah.
And she's like, but that's fine. It's who you are, and you don't lower your standards for anybody. You help them make it higher, right? Because every occasion is important and you have to respect that occasion, is hence you're dressing up.
Yeah.
Right? For yourself and of course the occasion. Yeah. So yes, I think that's a really nice thing that she said, that wherever you go, regardless of who they are, don't make them feel low, but regardless of who they are, you dress well because you like to do it.
don't put somebody down, but own up to
Yeah,
who
yeah,
you are
yes,
also. You
yes,
don't need
yes,
to shrink. And
yes.
that's the exact thing like my dad also like tells, like when we go to like some wedding or something, and I'm like confused, like what should I wear? And I'm like, should I wear this? It's a nice dress or nice outfit. And then, but I'm like, but what if they are not wearing that?
Yeah.
And then my dad is like, that doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
that doesn't
You
matter.
wear what you like feel good and like, so it's the similarity that we share there. Also, like I think I misunderstood, like when you said that you are overdressed today.
Yeah.
You're not. You're completely
amazing.
yeah. I like people to be like this, so for me this is normal.
Yeah, that's lovely.
That's great. So from there, talk to me about like now you were in Singapore, you decided that okay, I'm going to take this seriously, I'm going to finally study fashion. So how was that whole experience? Like what all things did you learn and like everything?
I think it was both my boarding school and Singapore, I would say, were a blessing in disguise actually, because even my boarding school, funny story, I went there, I ran back in 15 days because they don't let you talk to your parents for 15 days. The Good Shepherd was extremely strict. So I called my parents, this is it, I'm coming back. So then I went back, and again in a month I was sent back to boarding school. So it's like almost like, the force of nature wanted me to be at a certain place, but me physically didn't want to be there. Similar thing what I just told you in Singapore, after 6 months I was like, no, this is it, I'm done, I'm going back. So I would keep having this habit of like escaping from a place and not being there and accepting that, it's a new experience, and any new experience is hard in the beginning. It's not going to be like a cakewalk. You enter somewhere, of course you're shifting your country, weather is different, people are different, you don't know anyone, okay, now you're alone, you had so much of comfort. So everything kind of mentally also takes a toll on you, and then physically also is different. So all of those, the reason I then realized that these were actually blessing in disguise, because they really made me who I am. So even for my boarding school, when I went there, actually I was honestly very poor in English. Like I was average, I would say, is why I call it poor. And I went there, and I was in IB, and you had like 11 books for English in standard level, and I was like, 11 for English? Like what is this? Like
how am I going to do
learn?
this?
Yeah, how do you do this? And so then I had no habits of reading or like having any kind of external knowledge. It was all like very superficial, how kids just तब तो ऐसा था, just go down and you play and then you just do your school work. So there was no extracurricular in my life. So Good Shepherd taught me how to read forcefully, and Singapore taught me how to be independent, because more than the studies, it's things like you go out of the door and you realize now your house is your responsibility and you've forgotten the keys, and you're like, oh my god, like now you're living alone, you have to take care of yourself, you have to see your accounts, you need to kind of see yourself.
Make a budget for everything, to buy groceries. And
yes. So in that way, I feel that independence is something that is irreplaceable, that I felt there. And of course, in terms of even like the studies wise that you asked, theory wise also, I'm honestly very happy, because they push you a lot very naturally. The place I was in, the education system wasn't like the final exam is everything. Every assignment was 20%. So we just had to give it our all the time. And I think that is a very beautiful lesson, because even if you're having a bad day, you just have to give it all, because you know that matters eventually in like the bigger picture. It's not like a final day aega, you perform there and then you're done. No, for the final day, it's a lot of work always throughout. So yeah, I think that was a beautiful lesson that I got there.
Lovely. I mean, I see a lot of things in you which like kind of are similar. Like I feel like there are some similarities that I have, or when you say that that sometimes you are put in a situation and then it's a blessing in disguise and all of that. So yeah, that's amazing. Talk to me about now you were doing this, you felt independent, and then what from there? Like you were like, okay, were you still sure, like, okay, I'm gonna like pursue, like I'm gonna start building a profession, or were you like still treading around doing some other work?
I was pretty sure actually. To be honest, I was performing quite well in my studies there, and then I did my internship there as well in Singapore for a while. Didn't enjoy them as much, but I definitely knew that something in this field is always going to be my thing. And so Singapore is where I really started like experimenting with makeup. That was the place that I started attending. Like my first makeup class was I attended Estee Lauder's makeup workshop there. Then I went to another artist in Singapore just for fun. Like I was like, okay, let me learn. I had some free time. And all my friends, every time we would go out at night, would come to me. So even for their school projects, I was doing their makeup, I was helping them dress up. So in that way, I knew that this is my field. If I put my energy to it, I can definitely make it. That was pretty sure. On what to do and how was, of course, a journey to be here and understand that this is finally what you want to do, because I've also tried like a lot of things like styling, and even I did a lot of like one-on-one clients where I will kind of help them that, oh, you know what, like this shoe looks better, or like you should wear these colors for your skin, maybe this hair, and help them with their grooming. But now I just want to make a bit more, I don't want to make a 1x impact, if that makes sense. Like if I'm talking to you, you're not the only person I want to make an impact to. I want to make an impact to a bigger crowd at the same time. And hence is where now I am, where I'm doing more online and digital. Yeah.
So how did that start? Like, as you said that, like that was a whole journey in itself. So let's talk about that. A moment where you're like, okay, finally I'm doing this. How did you take that first step? Because so many people, have that thing in their life. Like, okay, maybe they want to do this, maybe they don't. Sometimes they're confused. Sometimes they become sure, but don't know how to take that first step. So how did you do that?
So for me, I knew that I'm just going to try different things at the beginning. That's something that I was pretty sure. But like I said, for me, image consulting was a big deal. So when I came back, I actually did another course in image consulting, which was, it's an institute called ICBI. And I went there, and again, that kind of opened me to, doing more one-on-one clients and doing a lot more workshops, gave me a lot of confidence to speak in public. When I was there, I realized that there is a huge gap of awareness, and I actually also became open to understanding that there's a gap of awareness after a while, because when I came back, I was like, oh, this is not my crowd, this is not where I want to be, I'd rather be in Bombay, Delhi, and honestly at that point when I did return to Ahmedabad, like 2012, I would say, there was no scene of fashion. 10 years back, you did not have a single store here. All you had was like these random small shops.
Yeah.
So then even shopping or getting your basics also was not easy.
Yeah.
And
it was not even that exciting as it is now.
Yeah, but for me it was, because I had seen it all. I was in the field for 4 years. So, for me, I was looking forward. So for me, I was like always like, oh, when I travel, I'll get this. When I do this, I'll do that. So when I actually did the course, I realized that the awareness is so low that people don't even find this a need. And to make it into a need, how I stumbled upon this was to actually make people aware that, my first step was to do a lot of workshops. So we even did workshops with Times of India for 200 people. Then I would call the press, and like every time they had a story, I would tell them the importance of it. That was number 2. Number 3 was then the course I was in, there was no online current guide. So the theory was very outdated in my opinion, because I'll give you an example. They say that if you're a pear shape, then you don't wear like printed pants or like a darker color. And I was like, that doesn't make sense, because I have so many people in my life that I've seen carried very confidently. And even for my body shape, there would be so many no's and I would do it. And I was like, this is a little bit outdated now, because now it's more about anyone can wear whatever. There are different silhouettes within different silhouettes. So even fashion, textiles, technology, silhouettes wise had gone ahead. So I thought something current is not there online. And to make that data is how I actually got into content creation.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then what were these workshops about?
So I was, these were on similar topics on how to dress
Educating
well.
people.
Yes, how to dress well, power dressing, how it is important to dress according to an occasion as well as according to your body shape and your colors. So there are a lot of aspects to, for example, you've been invited to a party, right? what you would like to wear according to your personal style, your body shape, everything is different. But also, for example, it's a garden party and you wear stilettos. It doesn't make sense, right? And people did not have even a basic knowledge of, if you're going to a garden party, you wear block heels, because then you're making yourself in an uncomfortable position. So it's your occasion, it's the place, and again, yourself, like your body, your face, your colors. It is important. You can deny it, but it is important.
Of course. Yeah. Sometimes, because now there is representation. Like there is like these colored models, like, browns and black colored models and everything. Earlier there was nothing. So you just saw one person doing one thing and that worked for their skin and their body type. And then you were like, and then you would feel upset, like, why is this not working for me? Because you were not seeing anybody else, doing anything else. So yeah, now it's good that, people of different shapes and sizes and colors have come into the industry.
So in fact, on this, if you actually go on my YouTube and see, first few videos were all about, like, image consulting and how you can kind of style like one trousers different ways and, things like that. And this is, like I said, long back. I'm talking about, again, 5-6 years back, when it wasn't a thing. Everybody has a channel now. Everybody's like a big deal on Instagram. Nobody was doing anything. At that point, my thing was that, I just really want to provide data, because I had also started teaching now future image consultants. So I was like, they don't have anything to see online. Like, if they type, there's nothing. There's no information for them that is visually appealing and is current and in a more modern format. That's how I honestly started, in fact, content creation. And then I thought that, then it just happened. Then brands started approaching, and then I realized that, this is what I enjoy more, because it's more creative than the one-on-one. And like I said, it's more like more impact than 1x.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, that it reaches a wider audience. And, like people can pick and choose, like, as you said, that, a particular thing, body type, shapes, this, that, what works for somebody, what doesn't work for somebody, there's a lot of data and content available that people can feel like, okay, like they can pick their side and they can be like, okay, this works for me and I'm glad that this person is doing this. So talk to me about, like, as you said, the brands started to reach out. Now that whole space, of somebody, say, wants to become a content creator in today's times, what are some of the things that they should keep in mind? And like, how does that whole process work? What is the process like?
Process is, I think it's very personal to each one. Though now there is a lot of like standardization. When I started, there really wasn't anything. I think in Bombay also there were 2-3 influencers and they had no name, to be honest. I knew them because I was in the field of fashion, and when we were in Singapore, we were asked to research on bloggers. So I knew international bloggers.
Right.
And even I wanted to do it in those days. I actually had a website that pretty much nobody knows about. It was called Fanatical Fashion. I don't know if it exists. And I was like so shy to put my own photos, and I'd barely like put up 1 or 2 things. And my parents were completely against it. Like, what is this internet pay, putting your own photos? This is madness. And it's like 2010, they were
and now they're all on internet every day on Facebook.
So at that point, they were in shock. Like, what is she doing? Like, no, just ask her to stop it. Nobody will marry her. And this is like such a typical thing. So when I did come back, by then people were already open about it. And there were, like I said, there were only 2-3 bloggers. So for me, it was a learning process. And whatever my process is today is what I've made it. Like, if I have like a way I communicate to brands, if we have agreements, and like, we've made it very professional. But I had it professional since day one, because that's just the way I knew it. Even whatever steps you take in life is what I had learned all these years in my college and school. That's the only way to be, right? As of now, it's super simple. You just kind of have a strategy and focus on what platform you want to do it. Like, for example, it's Instagram or YouTube. So each platform has their key of what works. You can't be putting what works on YouTube on Instagram, and you can't put the same on YouTube, because both apps, people come for different purposes. And that's with any other app as well. Like, you see Pinterest, you see Twitter, people go to these apps for different purposes. So if you're going on Instagram, it's more for like inspiration, just kind of knowing what's happening in people's life. But YouTube, you generally go for like how do I stitch a button? Just giving an example.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
more
yeah.
like educational based.
Yeah.
You want to like understand what's happening, or even as random as you're in a party and you're like, how to open the wine bottle without a
Corkscrew, yeah.
So things like that. So YouTube's purpose, but you're not gonna. It's a search engine, and Instagram is not a search engine. So you have to understand that Instagram, that's why more entertainment and time pass goes on. But YouTube, if you're gonna put like a lot of time pass, unless you're a big celebrity, nobody wants to know what you're doing.
Even if you're a big celebrity, nobody
Yeah,
cares
now
nowadays.
nobody cares.
Nowadays,
nobody
if you
cares.
have to give
Initially,
value.
yeah, exactly. You have to give some kind of value, or those things just don't have views or any engagement, right? So I would say kind of understanding the platform and forming a strategy around it, because you need to understand that, for example, if it's YouTube, it's a more long format content. You need better quality for that. You need better audio quality. It's not as random as just taking a phone and doing it, right? So understanding each platform, having a strategy around it, and just honestly being authentic, kind of asking yourself, is there a reason why I'm doing this, or is it just because, like brands are sending free stuff? Because let me tell you, there's nothing free in life. Absolutely
true.
nothing. If I'm getting something for free, they expect me to do something for them. They've not just sent it, ki bhi mera ghar bharo. It doesn't work like that. That's true. So, that's what I tell people, that it's fascinating that, your brands are sending you this, they are sending you that. Yeah, but they expect me to and for me, that is so much pressure to constantly deliver something to someone all the time. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So that those would be my few tips to kind of actually know the whys behind it and understand whichever platform you're taking ahead as your main. And for the new content creators, I would also say have some kind of backup, because now the industry is very fragile. For example, you don't know how long Instagram is going to be around, or you don't know, for that matter, any app is going to be around for what. So just to stay updated, like how TikTok was just shut overnight, right?
Yeah.
And then people that were actually earning off of that platform didn't have work anymore, and then they had to build everything from scratch on Instagram. So I would say kind of having a backup somewhere else as well, if you are so sure content creation is your way forward. Like if you're on Instagram, then at least once in a while also be present on YouTube, because then again, starting from zero on another platform gets a bit difficult, just as a backup if you have time.
That's a very good point that you mentioned, that people need to be aware of what the platform is about. Like say when you talked about YouTube and Instagram and everything, it's very important. I never thought about it, but now that when you speak of it, like I can think about it and say, yeah, that's true. Talk to me about now, you had all these experiences with the brands and everything. What are some of the brands that you've worked with that you would like to share, like your experience about working with them? What are some of the upcoming brands that you wish like you want to work with because you look up to them?
In terms of working with brands, honestly, I've worked with a huge range in terms of like, I've worked with in beauty industry, like let's say Estee Lauder, MAC Cosmetics. I've worked with all of them. Then you even have like small businesses that are doing it out of their homes. I've even actually worked with them as well. So smaller businesses that we don't know as much, as well as like the bigger names in the industry. We have like even in fashion, recently I did a shoot for Gulabo by Bujani Sandeep. So that's like a big name in fashion, as well as Ritu Kumar.
You also did Sabyasachi, right? The H&M collection.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah, I saw that. It was nice.
So in terms of like the brands, it's been huge. In fact, with local brands, I've done a lot of work. Pretty much a good chunk of like jewelry designers here, I worked with them. So in that way, it's honestly like the list is endless of the brands. But in future, I think I would like to, I have worked with a few luxury brands, but I would like to go for the more international luxury brands, is what the new aim would be. But again, for me, it's always been like organically whatever works. For me, I realized this in fact quite recently with my experiences, that when you try to force something too much, that a certain number or a certain brand, of course it's great to dream big, but sometimes you need to let it flow, because the reason I started this was to help people naturally tell what I'm actually doing. And it's a blessing that now those brands have come in and kind of helping to promote, like be it skincare. Like I did not imagine like a Clinique or Estee Lauder would message me, but I've been using this brand because I've lived abroad for so long. I've used them for more than 10 years. So of course it's a pleasure to promote what you already use, and I try to kind of put things that I genuinely are part of my life and only promote that. So that's honestly a big step and a big, like you say, a parameter for me to actually work with a brand. Right. In terms of, like I said, new ones, I would say a few international ones, but no force. I think if it happens, it happens, and if it doesn't, then I guess there's a better plan. Like I just saw this video this morning, and it was such a beautiful line. I think I don't know if you know this YouTube star, mostly sane.
Yeah.
So there was
Prajakta,
right? There was a short video of hers. She was saying that I met Sadhguru, and while she was leaving,
I saw
you've
that.
seen that video?
I think
That is so beautiful.
I think I saw that on your pro. Like I
no,
don't
I
know.
haven't shared it.
Okay, then I think somebody else shared
somebody
it.
must have.
Yeah.
So that video is doing actually quite well online right now. But that was such a beautiful line when Sadhguru says that I hope you don't achieve your dreams, because you achieve even more than that. Because honestly, and I relate to it so much, because I was in papers like 2012, and people were like, oh, did you dream of being in papers? Like, was this in your checklist? I said, mujhe nahi pata tha. Like, I was just doing what I love, and the media called and they are interested. Like, I did not go to them, not to be boasting, but it wasn't in my bucket list कि मुझे इस podcast पे आना है, मुझे इस paper में आना है, like this is the place I have to be. I was just doing what I enjoy, and then all of these things came. So when people run behind those things, now that I see that their aim is to be in a certain, like, publication or like a certain place, but just do good work, and if you naturally deserve to be there and naturally the universe wants you to be there, you'll be there.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we talked about, like in so many other episodes also, that that what you do, like you should love the process. I think Shivani said it like completely perfectly when she talked about like her journey, and she said that you have to love the process.
Yeah, you have to.
If you look at the outcome and you go for it, you're going to be disappointed.
Definitely.
Because it might happen, it might not happen.
Yeah.
So you can't think of the outcome and decide ki I want to do this. So that's very true. Like talk to me about, as you said that there are so many other brands also that you want to work with, and you also mentioned you did study makeup, and now you also a makeup artist. So talk to me about that. Like how did that happen?
So makeup has always been like this soft corner love. It's like I think it's something that I'll always love, because it's where I actually stumbled upon a lot of things. It just made me realize how just making yourself, like knowing the right makeup and the whole process of putting it on and the end result can really make you feel so beautiful from within. And I just absolutely love that. Why I started doing it, I was just telling you that all my friends would just come to me. So it's like it's actually been happening for years. And the few of these that were there with me forced me to do their wedding makeup, and that's how it happened. But to be honest, now it's not something that I do like at least currently in my life, it's not something that I do in terms of every day I'm taking a makeup job. For me, it's honestly just a fun extra thing that I do. I enjoy putting it on myself, and I love telling people about it. And I love teaching, because I honestly feel that what you can give them forever to do, like if I can teach you to do it yourself, I think that's a better way to go forward than just doing it one time for you. But yeah, in future, if I feel interested to kind of do it more, then you never know. But yeah, as of now, it's more like a side thing. It's definitely my first love, but it's not my first love in terms of career and like monetary wise. Monetary wise, it's not my first priority right now.
Talk to me about, we talked about like the brands and everything. Now, when you said that, that no brand sends you stuff for free, you have to give them a certain value, and that's why they approach you. Talk to me about that whole process. Like once, say, a brand has approached you, what is that? What are the further steps that you have to take after that?
So there are different ways of collaboration, and the way they want to work with you. A lot of them want to do barter, which is the free stuff, right? So which is technically not free. Barter is I give you something, you give me something back. So if you're giving me free stuff, I'm giving you free content back, which it requires my time, equipments that I've invested in, my expertise, of course, and my
the people
community that I've built.
Exactly.
Who are giving you sales for technically for you a sample piece that wasn't of that huge of a value is actually giving you a huge value.
Yeah.
Right? So that's barter collaborations, but depending on the brand, we do take them because it's also nice to kind of support a few brands. Like for example, the bag that I'm carrying today has come in barter. And it's a small brand. They wanted my support. I was more than happy to do it. All the shout outs I've given them are completely no commercial basis. So
You genuinely love the
genuinely
product.
like it, and,
Yeah.
and I was like, why not? If I'm actually using it in my daily life as well, and if it makes sense, then in that way I feel I'm blessed to have first hand on these things, right? Then the second way is that you do commercially, that you get paid to promote a certain thing. They sometimes even give you a brief, sometimes they give you full creative freedom, and that's how you kind of create content in your own style and tell your audience about it. And that's another way to go forward. So each brand has their set budgets and like set ways they want to go ahead. A lot of them, a lot of like makeup and skincare, what they do is they do a lot more barter in terms of they keep sending things because they want you to keep trying new things. And you know, and if they want something specifically commercially like a certain look or a certain festival look, then they go ahead and pay for it, right? That's how it works. But I was just talking to somebody, I wish there was like a manual. There isn't. There are just few types and different brands do different, and I also know different influencers at different level are doing different things. So yeah, there's just different ways. I know like recently a brand offered, would you like to do half barter and half paid? You know, like if it's for example a video is costing an X amount, then maybe my product's half amount you take in barter and half in payment. Yeah, so those are also a few ways that people like to go ahead and do collaborations for their brand, and it comes down to their budgets and how big the marketing campaign they want to make it. Because let's be honest, for a barter there's only certain that I can provide, because even when I'm doing content creation, I'm paying somebody ahead. Even I have a team in place, I'm outsourcing it.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yes,
like
yes.
that part of content creation is what I'm talking about. Like what goes into that?
That's a very good question, because there's just so much behind the scenes. That's exactly like what we are doing here. There's a photographer, there's an editor, you have videographers. Sometimes, honestly, we do a lot by ourselves. Like I have been passionate in terms of, I'm no photographer or videographer. I don't have the knowledge like a professional. But I started experimenting with a camera and different like lenses way back in Singapore. So if you see, even till date, 60 to 70% of my content is self-shot.
Okay, that's like...
Yeah. But is also self-edited. There's a lot, and honestly, some of the photographers love working with me because they just send and be like, "Ye khud edit kar leti hai," so then half of our stress is gone. So in that way, there's a lot of behind the scenes. But depending again on the project size, we hire which kind of photographer who is also available, editors. And what we have realized is in this field is that the more natural and organic is what audience responds to more. I could get like the fanciest of photographers and pay them a bomb, but my audience isn't responding to that. And also industry standards and what photographers charge otherwise is very different. This is a side that I don't think a lot of bloggers talk about. Like for example, a photographer charges for like half a day a certain amount, right? A few thousand, whatever is their experience and prices. Now, we as influencers can't afford to pay them that amount because we don't get
that
as much.
From the brand.
Yeah, because like for example, you have a clothing brand, right? And you go and hire a photographer, you hire a makeup artist, you hire a model. So you have a good budget to do that shoot for a catalog or your collection, and you can kind of afford to give it to all. Now, in this case, pretty much all influencers are doing their own makeup, their own hair. Like at least a big chunk of it, or a big chunk of it on a daily basis is doing it by themselves. And when a premium price is asked by a photographer, you can't actually give back because it's just not possible to, because you're not getting the same amount from the brands. And when you charge so premium, To the brands, what happens is that they are like, oh, it's okay, we don't mind, you do a self shot. Or they don't have a certain, they just want our personality. So for them, there is no specifics, right? So, and also on online right now, it's a number game.
Yeah.
A certain number, like regardless of my followers are 50K or 500K, photographers and like the behind the scenes team is taking the same money. I'm just saying photographers because they are like the most important, but I mean a lot of people behind the scenes, they are taking the same amount that they would usually do. But for us, according to the number I have, I'm being
get
paid.
the revenue.
Right? So, for example, this shoot is going to cost me 20,000, just an example. But brand is like, but your followers are not the 20,000 ones. So, we can't pay you that price. So, then how do I carry forward that price to the team? These are just a few complexities of behind the scenes, of course, of this industry, because like I said, whatever my number is, their work and their effort is the same. But a beautiful thing is that the community kind of brings this gap. As of now, what I've noticed is, for example, my credit and my community can help the team behind the scenes be bigger if I give them that platform or opportunity or visibility, right? And then that kind of bridges the gap of the money, because then there's a lot of like unsaid advantage.
That's really nice, and you've really gotten into it in detail, and I love that. I love that.
Years of work into it.
Yeah, and I think that's why people love you. That because you say things as they are. You're like, okay, this is what it is, and not hiding anything, not keeping anything. It is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, I think that's why you have the following that you have, and that's great. Talk to me about, you mentioned all of the content creation process, the brands and everything. Now I want to talk about your family business, which is hospitality, and which goes hand in hand with content creation and brands and, like the fashion industry, and, it's kind of parallel to that. How do you see both of them going together? Are there any plans that you want to merge the two and create something in the future or anything?
Not really as of now. There's no plans of honestly merging it. But in terms of, yes, I think nowadays everything is in parallel with content creation, to be honest, because every field requires it, and everything has become very integrated. It's not like before that, there was only a certain aspect that you needed to perfect. If it's hospitality, you needed to perfect your service and your food, and like, your backhand should be more stronger. But now how you look on the front is just equally as important as your backhand. So as of now, there's no like specific plans of it. But like I said, I'd like to believe that I'm going more with the flow. And how I like to kind of merge like hospitality and food and like hotels is with locations, and even sometimes we do different kind of setups. We in fact promote a lot of restaurants as well. So in that way, but there's no strategic plan of not as of now, to be very honest.
If it happens, you'll go with it.
Of course, open to it. Of course, open to it. As of now, the future plans are not that.
Okay, great, lovely. Now talk to me about how do you see the industry growing? It has, as you said, you started back in 2012, and now it's like 2022, and it's like boomed. Okay. Where do you see it going from here? And what else,
I mean, this industry is going to be huge. The change that will happen is like, because I would like to believe that we are still in the beginning stages of this industry developing, in terms of there are no set parameters, or there's no manual or no book, or there's no way to know that, I meet, out of 10 people I meet, 8 people still ask me, how does this work? They know that it works, but how, still people don't know, right? So until that point, I think you're still in the early stages of an industry. So in that way, the market is huge. If you see the research and read articles, this industry has a lot of potential. Even honestly, even monetary wise, it's going to be huge. In fact, financially, it's going to be very beneficial. What will happen though is, in my opinion, is there is going to be a lot of filtering, which is like the players that are just in it for fun, or like, are in it just to try it out, or like stumbled upon it but don't have the passion for it, or somebody asked them to do something, अरे ज़रूरी है आजकल, वो सब reasons की वजह से, or you're there just for the free brands or the views, all of those people will filter out.
Yeah.
Because it's a taxing industry, let me tell you, and the pressure is high. I have not seen such a high pressure job anywhere, because I don't know which is the day that I can tell myself mentally, Heena, it's okay to be in bed and just, or even when you go out, it's okay to not dress up. Like if I'm not feeling well today, I still have to perform.
Yeah, that's a little...
And you don't know, and you constantly have to be updated. I can't be like, oh, I'm gonna, like, after 3 months, I'll see what will happen. Because in 3 months, everything is gonna be different. Nor can I 3 months in advance plan it. I'll be like, oh, let me do things for 2 months in advance, because if I do it, after 2 months, trends are gonna be completely different. So in that way, it's a super high pressure industry. Super.
Yeah. I can feel that. Starting to feel that a little bit. Like I was thinking about that in the car when I was coming here today. Like, I was like, oh my God, this is like, okay.
You will always be here.
Yeah. Anyway, what advice would you give to someone? As you said, it's very taxing, and taxing means like you have to be mentally very, very strong, because you're going to be compared, you're going to be judged. As you said, you have to put your best foot forward, your A game, even if you don't feel like it. And that takes a toll on your mental health. So what would you tell someone, like how to balance the two, and what are some of the advice or skills that they need to learn to enter into this space, people who are just starting out?
So, to be honest, I'm still learning, because the industry is such that it's changing so fast in terms of, like, I'll give you an example of what recently I'm going through, a very open example. So, Instagram now has their insights so openly being shared, right, in front of your eyes. Like, I mean, now they've made it more complex. Like if you have a business account, you can see it. So it's become very complex. They're giving you like accounts reached, and niche they're writing minus. If your profile, like right now, you're not getting followers, it shows in minus. If you're getting more, then it shows engagement to be 100 plus 50%, plus 30%, minus 10%. And all of these numbers are honestly for me, since it's happened, I've been like, oh my God, like, am I losing followers? When did I start going in minus? And every time I meet somebody, they're like, you're doing very well. So there's such a huge conflict that you're always upset that, am I not doing well? Like, don't people like me? Why is my insights in minus? And then suddenly you put like the most dumb shit and your insight goes in like plus. So there's a lot of like number game, which is something that I'm still learning to understand each day, that is what I have to grow with, because as algorithms change, as platforms change, I will have to change. So the advice will be very short-lived is what I'm coming at. Yeah. But what we spoke about is you have to enjoy the process. There is really no other way. As it's almost like, every interview you see and you ask people, the answer is be authentic. Like, क्यों करते हो ये, कैसे करना है, how do you make it big? And everybody is like, just be authentic. But what is be authentic? How do you find that authentic?
Yeah, exactly.
So in the same way, like how do you kind of just know, like how do you always love the process? But there will be days you will not love the process. For me, I like to compare it in terms of like, when they say, how did you know this is the guy you wanted to marry? Like I knew there were going to be problems, and I knew there were going to be a lot of fights. But what are the fights you are okay with?
Exactly.
Right? So it's same thing goes with your work. What is it that you're okay with? Like this is the low of it. You have to know what are the lows of a particular field or a marriage or a relationship that you are okay with. So for me, I am okay with the number game, because I genuinely love interacting with the audience so much, and I just love meeting people so much. I just enjoy doing this. I enjoy knowing the new brands. I just enjoy fashion so much that I'm okay with the downsides of it. Yes, it's taxing. Yes, there are days I cry, extremely frustrated, everything. Same with my husband, but those are the problems I'm okay with. But there are certain value systems that personally I feel I would not want to sacrifice, and The day that happens, then no relationship or career is worth it.
True. That's very deep and true, and what we need to hear, you know. And the one thing that you said about the platforms, you know, that Instagram or something, you know, the fact that they are showing you these things, it's so sad that, you know, these platforms have no accountability for anything. Like they just
they're trying. Like,
I don't think they are. All they want to do is make you feel the way you are feeling.
Of course, see, but there's, in my opinion though, we could beg to differ, but there are pros and cons to everything, right? So the pro being that now you really know what works. It's almost like what the statistics do. Like they really help you to know what works and kind of focus on the right place. It also kind of helps you, like for example, you did a video and you understand that that went viral, and you did another and you understood that went viral. You almost found your niche doing that is because of the numbers, right? Yes, the negative being that there is a mental downside to it, but it also helps you strategize. So you have to be the one who has to kind of differentiate that, you know, this or this not. Like now they have done this hiding the like count. I'm not sure if that's advantageous or not, but at least for me, it brings me no value. So it just brings me a little bit of satisfaction that, okay, if something is not performing, I can hide the likes. But other than that, I don't see what big deal it does. Yeah,
but
pros and cons to everything.
I would say you're very kind and you're very optimistic to say that, and I appreciate and I get where you're coming from, and I get the point that you're trying to make. That information is key. Once you have, you know, all this data has a good side to it. What I mean is when I say that the companies handling the data are not responsible with that data.
They need to be more accountable for sure.
And also
because they have a huge number in their hand to be accountable for.
And in some case, like when teenagers are involved, when school going children are involved, you so need to have certain responsibility that has to come from you, because you know
100%,
that is not there, and that is sad to me.
You're right. Like recently I went to a party and then there was a teenager. He's like, oh, please put up a picture with me now, even I'll get your followers. And I said, it doesn't work like that. It really doesn't. And I was like, you're like 40 and like, why do you want these followers? What are you going to do with them? It's absolutely useless.
It's sad to see people talk like that. That's my point.
That's true.
This is what
the
they're
whole
doing
number game. I mean, that's true. And it kind of, being on the other side, I also realized that I have been through a lot mentally because of these numbers. So I get it. It's just something that we don't really talk about. Like maybe my husband would know, my mother would know, but then it ends there. I don't think I even sit and share at a party with my friend that, oh, like, you know, this bothers me. But it definitely does bother how it affects you. So for me, but though in everything in life, it's like you have to draw the line. You are responsible for it and you better take accountability. If somebody else isn't, then you take it. So if it's bothering me, I need to stop checking, or I need to find a strategic way to kind of use my energy in a better place rather than constantly be like, oh my God, this is happening, oh my God, that's happening. If it's happening, it's happening, and you kind of deal with that.
That's true. And I mean that it's a blessing that we come from a generation, we come from a time where we cultivated that kind of sanity.
That's true.
It did not happen like when we were 12 and in school, because I sometimes think of it like, you know, when I hear like stories on Instagram, I mean, we are like talking about it in detail, but why not? That school going children are like bullied, like abused or whatever, you know, things like that, and they have like body issues. Like I never even, when I was a child, I was like, what if, you know, I was a child and somebody would tell me like, you know, things like that. People did in their own ways, like you're so thin, this, that, but not on that level, no. And sometimes I think of it that I can't even imagine being 13-year-old right now. And
but it existed, like, you know, the more people you talk to, you'll realize it existed even then.
But I'm talking about the scale.
The scale and the platform wasn't there to talk about it for sure.
On Instagram now, it feels like if one person tells you something, you feel like the whole world knows about it.
Definitely.
That is a little, you know, overwhelming situation to be in. And sometimes I think that I neither want to be a 13-year-old in this time, nor I want to be a parent of a 13-year-old in this time, which is worse.
Because there's such a huge generation gap.
It's like, it's so hard for like them now. So I hope anybody listening to this, takes up all the good positive points that you talked about, works on the process, focuses on the process, and hopefully makes a profession and career for themselves out of it.
Yeah, I hope so too.
And you said everything so beautifully. I would be surprised if people would not be able to take points. You were very in detail and you explained everything very beautifully. Now we'll move to a little more fun segment, which is like, I love to ask people these things. So it's going to be like a curious quick five.
Okay.
So I'll shoot. What's the one thing that you're curious about apart from content creation, fashion, brands, everything right now?
People's mind. I'm very curious about psychology.
Okay.
So I'm always interested in knowing what the other person is thinking or going through.
Right.
So yeah, that's my curiosity.
Interesting. What's the one person that you're curious about?
Oh, one person that I'm curious about.
Living or dead?
Not really thought about this, but I think I'm just curious about. There's no single particular person. I'd kind of name the category that people who've like. I'm curious about people's stories and the behind the scenes of things. So even like somebody's made it big, I'm always like curious about the behind the scenes of it and like the how of it. So that's the category, but there's no person that's coming in my mind that I'm like so curious that I want to know right away.
So you're saying you would love to watch people on I'm Just Curious
Yeah,
podcast
yes.
talk about their life.
Definitely,
She said it. What's the one place you're curious to travel to?
There are a few actually. I really want to go to Greece one. I'm really curious to go to Positano. I've heard a lot. I've not been yet. I've heard a lot about that place. Yeah, I know it's not one of those fancy like commercial places, which is why I want to go there.
What, Greece and Positano?
Positano is
Both,
not as
nowadays
now
it is.
it is Positano still not as much as Greece.
No.
Yeah,
Equally.
But, yeah, but
Amalfi, Positano in Italy, these are like...
now it's coming up, but for me, I really want to go there because they are not one of those typical commercial places in terms.
Yeah, they are
of
like
what I mean.
village, like small towns.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They are smaller towns and they've held their culture together.
Yeah.
And I love traveling to such places rather than just like a fancy city and like the same clubs and the same food. I want to explore the local culture of places.
Good.
Yeah.
That's good. What's the one technology that you're curious about?
Oh wow. Metaverse, of course, it's all the thing right now. I've been recently very curious about NFTs because of my husband. He's been really pushing me to learn about that.
Yeah.
So yeah, these two top things.
True.
Yeah.
Amazing. What's the one book or author you're curious about?
The book that I'm curious about currently would be. Oh, that's a good question. As of now, there's not a huge list that I've thought of. Yeah, actually, I haven't read any Vex King books, so I'm very curious to read them. Yeah, that would be one. I was just thinking which ones are the ones that I haven't read. I've been like
nice.
thinking.
And you said that you're interested in psychology also.
Yeah, and
makes sense.
Makes sense. So I enjoy like reading this kind of stuff rather than, and in fact, just for my self improvement as well.
Yeah.
And I think books are a beautiful way to kind of give you the knowledge that doesn't exist. And I think it's so underrated now. Everybody is so like all about videos and like not reading, and everybody just wants like short summary of things. And I might be a little bit of a hypocrite saying it. Even time isn't permitting me as well to read as much as I would like to. But yes, definitely, I think books is a beautiful way to transform, because every time I travel, I just take a day to just be on a sofa and read. That's one of my things to do when I'm a little bit alone or it's a low-key trip.
Lovely.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
So we've reached the end of the podcast and it was amazing. I didn't even realize it just flew by, like time flew. Any last thoughts that you want to share about being here? Any advice or anything?
I've loved being here, and it was honestly a very fruitful and insightful conversations. And
Thank you.
the reason I love these is because when I would like to believe two intellectual people coming together.
Yes, definitely.
It's a very fruitful conversation. It's a very eye-opening conversation, and of course, these are the conversations you don't understand where time goes by. And I hope the audience feels the same when they hear or see it,
Yeah.
and kind of get value out of it. I think the last thought that I would like to go with is that it's just pretty much what I say all the time, but I would really like people now to own up to their sensitivity, because I feel like it's in today's world we promote so much of hard work and constantly like being this person, being that person. You being sensitive is almost is looked down upon, but I'm very proud of it. I might just cry if you say something right now, but I'm so proud of it because then that gives me the ability to feel so much. It gives me the ability to learn so much, and why I'm so curious about things, and why I love watching a sunset, why I love the little things, why I'm creative, right? So imagine you take like that one characteristic out of me, you lose the very essence of who I am. So I think for anybody, don't lose that essence, because that one thing that is your weakness, so called, is pretty much your strength.
That's fabulous. Like, and that's also one of the things we have in common. Like, that's also another similarity that we share, and I even speak about that on the previous episode that came out this Monday. So yeah, and you put everything so beautifully, and it was lovely having you. Thank you so much for taking the time and coming on the podcast. I'm so happy. Thank you.
I tell you one thing. We basically humans have 5 things in our life. One is a relationship, one is a career, one is a health, one is your hobbies, and there will be one more. Basically, we all are surrounded with 5 things. So when you cannot focus on one thing. When you focus on the one thing, you are excellent. You are outstanding on it.